What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over the Reign of X era of X-Men comics, and we actually do pick up with Wolverine number 8, 9, and 10 as well. This is a three-part story where we actually see the return of a certain character that has been gone for a good period of time in X-Men comics, but especially Wolverine comics. And it's kind of cool to see Marvel actually bring this character back, because in the 1990s, this was a somewhat popular character for a short period of time. And I really do mean a short period of time. But of course, this is our first time actually picking up with Wolverine after the X-Asaurus crossover event. We did see Wolverine in other books, but of course, this is his solo title. So with that being said, here is Wolverine number 8, 9, and 10 as well to show us the return of a certain character. Now, the first couple pages of this book actually reminds us about a character known as Jeff Bannister. Now, Bannister was actually in the first Wolverine story we actually covered, because remember, at the very beginning of the Dawn of X, when it came to Wolverine, you had two stories in Wolverine number 1, and we covered each story as a separate video. But the first actual complete story in the Wolverine series was an idea of Wolverine teaming up with this character Jeff Bannister, who was trying to figure out who is the Pale Girl, this new mysterious character that was going around and causing a lot of problems. Now, Jeff Bannister is actually a CIA agent, and so of course he was trying to figure out who the Pale Girl was, and his path crossed paths with Wolverine, who was trying to shut down the Pale Girl. And now, with them being able to kind of stop the Pale Girl temporarily, they kind of build a bond. And so you have Wolverine coming here to get some information from Jeff Bannister, but at the same time, is Jeff saying, we can still be friends. Like, you and I both have went through a lot. We both have done a lot of different things in our lives. So here's a beer. Let's sit down. Let's talk about different things that have really affected our life. Now, you do have Jeff actually share his story first, and his story is him about being in the military. How basically saying that when it comes to America and some of their wars, or possibly all of their wars, they always try to find a way to keep the war going. Because of course, war is a way to kind of make money. And so what you have Jeff actually tell us that there was a time he was in the military and his unit was sent out on a mission to basically take out a terrorist group. Now, of course, when they fired that missile to take out that terrorist group who was riding a bus, they come to find out that basically it was actually Americans on the bus. And so Americans killed Americans, but of course, they told the news that a terrorist group killed those Americans in that war zone. Because again, it was America trying to kind of keep the war going. Because of course, war does make a lot of money. And so that is why you have Jeff saying he thought back then he knew who was bad and who was good. But after that moment right there, he had no idea who was good or who was bad. Now, of course, it does come time for Wolverine to actually talk about a story or something that actually affected him so much in his past, like it somehow changed him. Now, of course, you do have Wolverine mention the idea that when it came to him before House of M, he had a hard time remembering his past before actually joining the X-Men, or really anything else a couple years before joining the X-Men or Department H. Because you have to remember, in the early days of Marvel Comics, Wolverine had no idea about his past. And Marvel would give us hints here and there to kind of give us a picture about the past of Wolverine. Now again, only hints here and there. Now after House of M, Wolverine did gain all of his memories, so he was able to remember a lot of different things. Now with that being said, you do have Wolverine say, over the years, a lot of different things affected me. You know, being on the X-Men or before the X-Men. but there was one particular moment that actually did affect me when I was on a certain team. And so this actually does lead into Wolverine kind of explaining about Team X. Now, Team X was a very interesting idea that Marvel gave us in the early 1990s, where of course it did kind of expanded the idea of Weapon X and Weapon Plus. Now remember, Weapon Plus was a huge program, and each of their projects gave us a different character. Now, of course, Weapon Plus actually started with Captain America because he was the first project, a super soldier. Now, remember, when it came to Weapon Plus, after years and years of different projects, it came down to Wolverine, Weapon X. And of course, X usually means 10. Now, with all that being said, it's Wolverine telling us that there was a time where he actually was part of the Weapon Plus program. And of course, there was a Blackout group. And of course, that Blackout group did have a lot of members like Wolverine and Sabretooth. But one of those members was actually a character known as Maverick. And Maverick is going to be the character we're going to see make a huge return in X-Men comics. Now, with that being said, though, this Blackout team would do a lot of different missions for different governments. Now, with that being said, you have Wolverine kind of having a flashback to an oil plant. And of course, this oil plant was supposed to be set to explode. Like Team X was supposed to go in there, blow it up, but make it look like it was an accident. But there could be no witnesses at all, which also could mean no survivors as well. And so that team went through that mission, but of course, Maverick got shot, Wolverine stayed behind, but the story actually gets cut short. And the reason why, because it's Wolverine saying that something happened in that mission or after that mission that also affected him a lot. But right after that story, you do actually have Wolverine being calmed down by Jeff, because Jeff can tell that whatever happened on that mission for Wolverine and the Team X, something really bad happened. And it really bothers Wolverine a lot. And so, of course, Jeff is able to actually calm down Wolverine. Now, after Jeff does that, that is the moment you have Jeff actually tell us and Wolverine why he called Wolverine here for. And he says there is another group of people. So, yes, we're getting another group we have to follow in X-Men comics. But there is another group of people that apparently are watching the mutant race, especially Wolverine and Jeff as well. And they're called X-Desk. And that is it. They're called X-Desk. And that actually wraps up the first story in Wolverine number 8. Now, that is the moment we actually do pick up with a bunch of random Black Ops characters who are right now breaking into a military base in Utah. Now, this military base is actually a base that no one should know about. Like, it's off the maps on any kinds of maps. But of course, this group of Blackout characters were able to find out about this place. And so, of course, they're actually attacking this military base. Now, you do have their leader actually say they only have 5 minutes to get in and get out and get the things they actually want. Now, of course, after a couple pages, we actually do see them being able to get some items they actually wanted. Like, for example, the dog tags of Wolverine, because it does say Logan on it. But of course, there's something else in that base that they possibly wanted and they possibly actually got as well. Now, we actually do pick up with Omega Red. Now, this is the moment I actually want to tell you guys we need to especially follow Omega Red in this series, but also in the X-Force series as well. Because Omega Red is actually going to jump back and forth between those two titles to give us a story in both of those titles. But for right now, Omega Red is only in this book right here. Now, with that being said, you actually do have, I forgot her name. She changed her code name, and I actually forgot her new, Scout. Her name is Scout. Now, originally, she was known as Honey Badger when she first appeared, and she is the clone of X-23. Of course, that's the clone of Wolverine. But after Logan died, they made X-23 the new Wolverine, and they thought it'd be a cool idea to give her own clone, which was Honey Badger, but she changed her name to Scout. And so Wolverine kind of looks at Scout like a granddaughter, and Scout looks at Wolverine as a grandfather. Now, you do have Scout and actually the son of Wolverine, Daken, actually attacking Omega Red. Now, the reason why, because when it comes to Omega Red, he's been a Wolverine villain for a very long time. Him and Omega Red have fought a lot of times in Marvel Comics. And so when Omega Red actually came to COPPA, Wolverine did not trust Omega Red, especially because what happened in the earlier books of Wolverine, which was that Dracula kidnapped Wolverine. And of course, it's kind of Wolverine believing that Dracula and Omega Red have some kind of deal they're working on together. Now, after you have Daken and Scout kind of fight against Omega Red for a few pages, you do have Wolverine step in, but this is Wolverine kind of saying like, we don't trust you, but we're going to watch you. And I can't kill you because our laws say I can't kill you, but I do want to kill you. Now, that's the moment you do have Sage actually call Wolverine up because she does have a mission for Wolverine. And so you do have Wolverine actually meet up with Sage and Beast. Now, remember, Sage, Beast, and Wolverine, they're part of X-Force. But the reason why you have Sage and Beast actually calling up Wolverine earlier is because it's them telling Wolverine what happened at that military base, which of course was attacked by that Black Ops group. Now, the reason why the X-Men are getting involved is not just because that base was holding information about Team X, but also because one of the blood samples that was actually gathered from one of those people who on that Black Ops team was a mutant. And so, of course, it is America saying, listen, you wanted to be a nation of your own. Now you have to figure out why one of your own basically attacked our base. And what is the big deal? Why are they trying to gather information about Team X? Now, of course, you do have Sage say, listen, there's only 3 people who would have any interest of Team X. Sabretooth is here and he's locked up. You're the second one, and that only leaves Maverick. And Maverick has technically been missing for a good period of time. And so this is basically Sage saying Maverick could have worked with that Black Ops group and attacked that base for some unknown reason. And so we need you, Wolverine, to go figure that out. Now, we actually do pick up with that Black Ops team once again, except this time you actually do have that Black Ops team attacking the home of Dazzler, of all people. But you do have this team breaking into her home in LA. Now, when they do, Dazzler, of course, did set up a security system to protect her home. Now, while the security system is protecting her home, that is the moment you do have Wolverine step in. Now, Wolverine is only going after one particular person, and the reason why, because it's Wolverine wanting to gather information from that person about the idea that Maverick could be back around somewhere. Now, of course, this guy actually does tell Wolverine almost everything Wolverine needs to know. And so what this guy actually tells Wolverine is this right here, that basically this Black Ops group was put together because they all have a military background. Now, the reason why I'm pointing that out is because when the X-Men opened up COPPA and became their own nation, it kind of did hit the different military operations across the world. And of course, you did have a lot of people who were working out of those operations as a way to make money. But with the X-Men kind of being out different problems, military operations began to cut back. And so with that, a lot of military people began to lose their jobs or lose their chance to get jobs. And so this group was made to kind of do some different Black Ops jobs around the world. Now, this group, of course, was apparently put together or possibly put together by Maverick, which is a huge thing. And by the way, if you're wondering who's Maverick is, don't worry. I'm going to explain who he is down the road. But either way, you do have this guy say Maverick was kind of the one to put the group together. Now, right after the guy says that, he says this group kind of has been doing big time jobs for one particular group known as the Legacy House. Now, the Legacy House is kind of like a collector group. They collect a lot of different things from superheroes and supervillains and try to sell it back to make a profit. And so with that being said, the last few jobs this Black Ops group has been doing is for the Legacy House. Now, before Wolverine is able to get any more information, a sniper actually kills this guy. Now, of course, we're left to believe that sniper was actually Maverick, but of course, Maverick was able to get away. Now, this is the moment where you basically have Wolverine say, okay, I'm going to go undercover to figure out what in the world is going on. And so you have Wolverine take up one of his old, like, secret identities known as Patch as a way to get into Legacy House to figure out what in the world is going on. Is it really a house that's selling a lot of collectibles of things that used to belong to super villains and superheroes? But also, could he find any information that can help figure out why in the world they're trying to get information on Team X, but also hopefully to find Maverick as well? Now, the next section, Wolverine number 9, next chapter, sorry, Wolverine number 9, we actually do pick up with Wolverine talking about another mission that he remembered when he was with Team X. Now, this mission is especially important. And the reason why, because when it came to Team X and they were part of Weapon Plus, the way they had Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Maverick do all the different things they wanted them to do, which was kind of rewriting their minds, making sure they were mind controlled and making sure they actually complete the task that Weapon Plus wanted them to do. Now, with that being said, when it came to Sabretooth, Wolverine, and Maverick on a certain mission, something clicked. And that click is very important. Their programming was changed. They were no longer just killing machines. They were now men. They believed they had rights. They believed they could actually fight back against the programming that was put into their system to make them do all the different jobs they were supposed to do. And so that mission right there was actually a huge moment, because that could have been the moment where Sabretooth, Wolverine, Maverick began to fight back against Team X and their handlers. Now, back in the present day, we actually do pick up with Wolverine arriving at the auction house to kind of learn more about what's happening behind the scenes. Now, as soon as Wolverine gets there, of course, he does go by the name Patch. They do patch him down, or pat him down, not patch him down, but pat him down to make sure that there's no wires on him. But of course, with X-Force, they always do have a way to keep contact with you, because this is a new age of X-Men comics. Now, with that being said, you do have Wolverine go inside. And when he does go inside, we do see some other characters who are there who are somewhat important for other books. But of course, it makes sense on why they're here for this auction, because they're bad guys. Like, for example, you have Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, actually here. Now, of course, this actually does lead into the auction. So, of course, you do have a lot of different items being sold tonight. Like, for example, the mask of Captain America, something that belongs to Black Widow, the glider that belongs to Green Goblin, like different things you would see at an auction, at a supervillain and a superhero auction, is actually here. Now, one of the biggest surprises is actually the hand of Wolverine. Yes, they are selling a hand of Wolverine as one of the many items of tonight. Now, of course, that means there was a time where Wolverine had lost a hand, and of course, somebody found that hand, being able to keep it fresh and clean, and now selling it tonight. And of course, that means you're going to have a lot of people make a bid for the hand of Wolverine. Now, right after all of that, that is the moment the biggest part of this auction begins. And of course, the biggest part is no other than Maverick himself. Now, this is huge because you actually do have the auction house tell us that Maverick has been completely mind wiped. Because Maverick is being sold as like a perfect killing machine. If you get him, he's all yours. He'll do everything you need him to do. And of course, they do kind of show him off a little bit as a way to kind of get more people to bid for him. Because this is a perfect killing machine. Somebody who's completely mind wiped, brainwashed to work for you and to take out any targets that you want him to basically take out. Now, after all of that information is actually said, that is the moment you actually do have someone tell the person who's kind of running the auction and say, hey, we got somebody in the crowd that you want to know about. And of course, that person is actually Wolverine. Now, you do have Wolverine go ahead and give up his undercover identity as a way to get ready to attack everyone in the room. But that is the moment you actually have the leader of the auction use his abilities to control metal to grab Wolverine. So now you have Wolverine under control only because by his metal bones, by the guy who runs the auction house, but also Maverick, who has been brainwashed as well. Now, this actually does lead into a huge moment because after Wolverine has been captured, you actually do have Wolverine have another flashback where he remembers a time where he was experimented on, but after they ran some tests on him and they threw in a cell room, that cell room was right next to Maverick's cell room. And so, of course, Maverick was talking to Wolverine about a certain kind of speech to kind of keep Wolverine's spirit high. Because with Wolverine, Maverick, and Sabretooth, they were with Weapon Plus for a very long time, especially Wolverine. And so Wolverine remembers the moment where Magic kind of gave him a speech to kind of keep his spirit high, to keep that hope that one day they are actually going to escape. And Wolverine actually remembers that speech and tells Maverick to remember the speech that he told Wolverine years ago. Because this is Wolverine hoping that if Maverick is able to actually remember this speech, maybe, just maybe, Maverick will break out of this mind wiped or mind control he's under right now and hopefully help Wolverine escape. And of course, that actually happens. Maverick breaks out of the mind control and ready to help Wolverine fight against the crowd of people in the auction house. Now, getting into the last chapter of today's video, I want to use the beginning of this video as a way to explain the powers of Maverick. So when it comes to Maverick, he used to have the ability, and the key word right there was used to, he used to have the ability to actually use kinetic energy. So he was able to absorb it and use it in different ways. So for example, he was able to turn that energy into a blast, or he was able to take that energy and actually add extra strength to his punches and kicks so that they actually hurt a whole lot more than usual. And so with that, when it comes to Maverick, he used to have that ability. He used to have a healing factor as well. Now, the reason why I say used to is because House of M. So let me explain. With House of M, the Scarlet Witch, of course, we all know she warped reality. And when she did warp reality, of course, that was the moment where she gave everybody the one thing they wanted. Now, Wolverine and a few other characters were able to make Scarlet Witch bring back the original Marvel universe. Now, when she did say no more mutants, where of course a lot of mutants did lose their powers, and Maverick was one of them. Now, most of those mutants who did lose their powers, thanks to the Scarlet Witch, they got their powers back, but not Maverick. And really, Maverick is not the only one. There are a bunch of other characters out there who never got their powers back. And that is why right now in the current X-Men stuff, which is all on COPPA, they made the Crucible as a way to kill you off and to bring you back to life as a mutant once again. And Maverick is right now one of those characters who does not have his powers because he lost it thanks to the Scarlet Witch. But he's still able to actually be a great, fighter, a sniper, a marksman, whatever. He's great at those because his past with Team X and other military jobs. Now, while you have Wolverine and Maverick trying to escape from the auction house, you actually have one of the items get taken away. And of course, one of those items was the hand of Wolverine. Because remember, sometime in Wolverine's past, his hand was cut off, and this group of people were able to get that hand and keep it alive and well. And now it's being taken away by some lady in a wheelchair. Now, this lady we actually saw in the earlier chapters of this video, where of course we know she works for some new organization called X-Desk, which honestly, that name is so whack. But either way though, right now she's walking away, or really in her wheelchair, and she's getting away with the hand of Wolverine. Now, of course, getting back over to Wolverine and Maverick, we do see them being able to get away from the auction house. But the question is though, where are they going to go? Because this is also the moment we come to find out that basically right now they're in Madripoor. They have to find a way out of this country right now. Now you do have Wolverine say, listen, there is a Krakoan gate nearby that they could basically use to get over to COPPA. But the problem is though, you have Maverick say no, because he does not like the idea of COPPA. And so instead you have Maverick say, you have to remember, Wolverine, I'm part of a group now. And he's right, because remember in the earlier chapters of this video, that Black Ops group we saw that attacked that military base in Utah, that was his group. He's part of that group. And so he's saying, listen, I know that it may seem like my group is kind of crazy people working together or possibly doing a lot of horrible things around the world, but in reality, we're not. And on top of that, they're very loyal to me, so you can actually trust them. And so you have Wolverine and Maverick being able to escape from a helicopter because some of the members of that Black Ops team is here to save Maverick, and of course, Wolverine now as well. Now, you do have Maverick actually take Wolverine to their base, which is a huge submarine that is always moving. So that helicopter we saw earlier, it lands on top of the submarine as it comes to the surface. And of course, it goes right back underwater once the helicopter is inside the submarine. Now, this is Maverick saying that this whole submarine belongs to him, and every man on the submarine is working for him. And so this is basically Maverick saying, Wolverine, look what I built. After I left Team X, after I saw you a few years ago, I built this, an entire group of ex-military people who have broken away from the military and joined me to do different odd jobs across the world. Now, of course, this is also Maverick saying, this is me finally being free. Because remember, Team X was part of Weapon Plus, the same people who made Captain America, who made Wolverine. But of course, when it came to Wolverine, Maverick, and Sabretooth, well, they were all brainwashed constantly over and over again. And so this is Maverick saying, I'm finally free. And also, why would I go to COPPA, where of course I wouldn't be free because I'll be controlled by Charles Xavier. Now, this is Wolverine trying to change the mind of Maverick, but he knows that Maverick really feels like if he does go over to COPPA, he'll hate it for one, but also feel like he's being controlled by Charles Xavier for number two. Now, of course, you do have Maverick actually offer Wolverine to help out with one more job, which of course is to kind of hurt the auction house, because remember that auction house did have a lot of materials that used to belong to super villains and superheroes as well. And so, of course, we do see Wolverine and Maverick go on this mission where, of course, you do have the two characters actually go to a warehouse that's in Houston, Texas. And of course, in this warehouse is a bunch of different items that belong to different characters or teams in the Marvel universe. So like the Avengers, Fantastic Four, the X-Men, even solo characters like maybe Daredevil, Elektra, and so on and so on. But this warehouse is holding all these different items that used to belong to heroes and villains. And of course, the auction house is getting those stuff from this warehouse to sell on the black market at the auction house. And so this is Wolverine and Maverick coming here as a way to get rid of it, because all these stuff should not be out there in the world, especially stuff that used to belong to Team X. Now for Wolverine, he's kind of like, should I look through these boxes? Because these boxes do hold keys to my past. And it would be great to have those things back in my possession once again. But at the same time, it's Wolverine saying, I have to let go of the past. And so you have Wolverine basically let everything burn. Now, to go ahead and wrap up this video, we actually do pick up with Maverick meeting up with the same lady we saw in the earlier chapters of this video, who we know basically works for X-Desk. And this lady is actually somebody we have seen in the earlier videos of our Dawn of X era of X-Men comics. Matter of fact, really the tail end of Dawn of X. And that lady is Dolores. Because remember, back in Marauders number 11, Storm actually met up with Dolores as a way to get information. And so right now, what we're seeing is Dolores meeting up with Maverick, and they're working on something together. Now, we have no idea what is this thing they're working on together. But of course, Dolores, who was a CIA agent who was talking to Storm in Marauders number 11, here now in Wolverine number 10, is actually working with Maverick, and they possibly have big plans coming out down the road. But with that being said, I do hope you enjoyed today's comic book video. And if you do, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.